How should you trade this risk on rally? Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie Lake, and today I'm talking markets with Dale Pinkert, trading coach at TradeGateHub. Hey, Dale, it's great to have you back on.
Hi, Maggie. I'm wearing a Bitcoin shirt for all the hodlers out there. Okay, and it says hope. People that know me uh, probably know that I don't place my hope in material things, but it's good to have hope in your life because that's the oxygen for accomplishing things and living life. Tough to be a trader and use that as a strategy.
I was just gonna say you need
So,
skill. That's
yeah,
what you need, Dale, and that's why we
right.
have you here today. But I mean, it's appropriate, and you're in the zeitgeist of the moment because I feel like everyone's talking about Bitcoin. And it listen, it's part of what seems like the everything rally that's back on. We
Yeah.
saw stocks up, dollar up, gold all climbing higher, and then of course Bitcoin within a whisper of that 100K. And listen, it may go through that as we're talking because, of course, it trades round the clock. You actually put a target on many of these levels when you were on last month. You called for 100K, as well as some really spot on predictions with the dollar and Nat Gas too. So we're going to go through all of it, but let's start with the asset of the moment,
Okay.
and that is Bitcoin. So how are you feeling here?
Okay, well, it's become parabolic, and I want people to, besides just hear a number or a forecast, understand the rationale and the reasoning behind it. So going into this big sideways pattern, and I talked about this last time, we basically had a, you know, 40,000, $50,000 run from the lows that we had in 22. So you just tack that on the breakout. This a lot of people would call this a cup and handle. This would be the handle. I was calling it a flag. Basically, it's a continuation pattern after a move to the upside, and that's how you come up with measured moves. To tell anyone what to do with Bitcoin right now is I really don't know. I'm a believer in nothing's a profit till you take it,
Mm.
and we could still go higher. We could go to, I know a lot of people are talking about a million, but the bear case in Bitcoin, I think, is going to be when we have problems in other legacy markets that is going to create the need for people to raise cash, and we're not there yet. So, but I would trail a stop, protect your profits because we could have a strong reversal, and but the trend is good. As long as we're above 70,000, we could keep going higher. But you know, it's
That
not a profit till you take it.
I think that's so wise, Dale, and I think really important to point out because there's an awful lot of enthusiasm. And let's face it, this is a newer asset class, so we have a lot of momentum. Does it seem and the point about having to sell your winners, right? That's just classic. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. If you have to raise cash, you've got to raise cash. So I think no one's really talked about that, and I think it's a
Okay.
really, really excellent point. Is
Well,
there anything that leads you to believe? Hi, everybody in the chat. And Christopher's pointing out for now, but the rally feels long in the tooth. I'm
okay.
not sure if he's talking about Bitcoin or everything. We'll get to that. Christopher, let me know if you're feeling skeptical about everything. But is there anything about Bitcoin that seems like it would make it different from almost any other asset you were talking about where it's very unusual? Things just don't go up in a straight line forever. You have
Well,
at some point, or does it? Or do we not know because it's so new? Does it feel like it could be different?
no. I believe a chart is a chart, and a parabolic move is the same in everything. This is a new shooting star. We could go back 6 months ago, and I could have NVIDIA up there, right? So that was parabolic too for a while. So the one problem with parabolas is once they break, it's usually over. And so, you don't have a reversal day. There's no signal saying it's over. The only thing that is a little bit concerning is we're not confirming the highs, but there's still too much mo for me to even consider shorting it. And, I teach the three P's, and the three P's are probe the market. So if the breakout was your reason for getting in the market, you're protecting yourself in case the breakout is negated. Then the second P is partials. That's where you take something off the table and you bank some money, and then you protect your profits by trailing a stop at the minimum to break even where you got in. But after a move like this, you could perhaps use a moving average. They're it could be a short-term moving average, it could be a long-term moving average, but you could put a stop in there to protect yourself from, things going awry. And I would say that we shouldn't see this thing trading back under 70. So even if you're a long-term holder looking for a quarter million, your line in the sand is 70K in Bitcoin, but I'd pull the stop up tighter if you're more of a swing trader. You don't want to give back from here almost 30,000.
This
So,
is really, really important, and I hope people who are, and this is why if you came into this conversation through crypto, right, not through traditional trading, it's really, really important to learn, especially from the past, right? We've seen big moves, and then it's been painful when it's been crypto winter. So you want to
yeah.
get smarter each time in each cycle and learn how to preserve more of what you're of how
Okay.
you're trading. Um,
Here's a suggestion, Maggie. See how this is a daily.
mhm.
So see how this 9 day, even though it became parabolic, held this sideways pullback before it accelerated. So I think you could just trail a stop underneath the 9 day moving average. And if it breaks that momentum, that'll be a warning signal that a correction is underway.
Fantastic. I want to ask you
92.
about micro strategy as well because there's been a lot of chat about this and it seems to be the poster child for the sort of I guess you could say the enthusiasm but also maybe some of the danger. It's I don't know if any of you saw Tony Greer shout out Brent Donnelly's piece. Um, when he's on, I always tell you Spectrum Markets, his notes are great. And he does a Friday speed run, and in it today, he had just such a great uh, summary of this. And if you haven't read it, I'm just going to read a piece of it because I think it's really important. Michael Saylor's playing the financial engineering game in God mode. He can borrow money for free to buy an asset, and then each time he does so, that asset is instantly revalued at 3x in the market in the form of MicroStrategy stock. It's stunning. And then you layer on a bunch more leverage in ETFs like MSTU, and you have a mega flywheel of leveragey awesomeness. It will break one day, but not before it enriches many degens and bankrupts the DCF establishment. Dale, talk to us a little bit. If people are in this trade, if they're looking at this trade, certainly there's going to be a lot of FOMO. Um, People are having a lot of fun with it. But when you look at a chart like that, what do you think about?
Well, this is what happens when parabolas end. What we were talking about. This might be the shot across the bow in Bitcoin. Doesn't mean that I'm going to look to short this thing, and I wouldn't even rule out a new high if the blow off in Bitcoin continues. But I would start to monitor this if Bitcoin keeps making successive new highs. I'd be interested in seeing where this is trading if we're at, say, 116 to 126 Bitcoin. And if this stock is not making new highs with that, that will be a tell, especially if it's a failing rally. But you know what? I'm not I'm not interested in being a hero anymore, Maggie. So why do I have to short the strongest stocks, the strongest instruments, so I could go on X and brag that I called the top?
Hmm.
And it may have taken me 10 attempts to do it. And then if I catch the top, I'm trying to break even. I would rather sell something that momentum has broken on. And I was just bringing up NVIDIA. I don't want this whole show to be about Bitcoin because, you shouldn't have more than, 5%, 10% of your equity in Bitcoin. But I
Mhm.
would say most people have 401ks. A lot of people, love AI.
Mhm.
And so this was, I think I'd rather be short something like this. NVIDIA had great earnings. It took out all the shorts and failed. And then look at the difference in the momentum on a weekly like NVIDIA,
Mm.
which eventually maybe we're going to see that in MicroStrategy. But look, we're under 70. We've been under 70. We've been diverging in since last June. Okay, so momentum is breaking and rolling over in Nvidia, and I guarantee you, there's a lot of people long. The low after earnings was 138. We start taking out 138. The trapdoor opens for Nvidia. There are other things. I shorted Google, and there's a lesson in this. I did it before the news from the Justice Department, and this is a lesson that you should just trust your charts. So here's Google.
Mm.
Pretty ugly day, and the reason we're right at this 200-day moving average. I'm looking for 130 Google. So why did I short this? This is even weaker than Nvidia because Nvidia just made new highs. Whereas Google, the reason I shorted it was S&Ps were making new highs, and I was looking for candidates that weren't. So
Mm.
this was last week in Google, well before the DOJ announcement, and we put in a reversal last week, like the general market did, that it's trying to fight its way back from. So I sold a pop on Tuesday, and this is an easier short for a senior citizen than Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Absolutely. Spoken like a real pro. And
yeah. I
again,
mean, ARP lets me trade Google, and they won't allow me to click my mouse on Bitcoin. Maggie, all right.
um, I love it. So I want to get through a couple other things, and I see a lot of great questions in the chat. We also have song requests as usual.
Oh my
A lot
gosh.
of Billy Joel. Somebody saying because of Bitcoin should be Rocket Man.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
put that aside
So,
for the moment, but we appreciate all of the musical recommendations. Uh, so when we when we look at, I want to touch on the dollar too because that's one of the calls you made. You were watching Dixie. We had some, I know you're right. Bitcoin and MicroStrategy sort of eating up all of the, headlines and oxygen in the room. But we had some really terrible European data today, really disappointing. And, some people really pointing out the divergence that's going on between the European economy and the US. And this seems to be feeding into the currency story. So, what are you looking at for the dollar? What are you looking at for the euro?
okay. Well, last time we were on, I think we are trading about 104. I was talking 109 for a target. Let me
Mhm.
pull the chart up and take a look at the dollar.
While
So,
you do that, I'm just going to say hi to
sometimes,
Ralph, who's late, but we're happy to have you,
you
Ralph.
know, not every interview are we going to be at an inflection point for me to make calls on turning points, right?
Right.
Because inflection points don't happen every month, maybe every quarter. So when I look at the dollar here, and I was talking 109, we've had a breakout here, but I feel late to start um, buying the dollar up here.
Mm,
And the reason is last time I was on, I showed this line that I had drawn when we were still up here.
mm,
And I said, I think we could tag it around 103. Now, just because it tags a line doesn't mean I'm going to go long, but it does mean that I'm not going to just, launch long, short euro positions here. We could get a bounce and, we could even trade 102. What I'm looking for in the euros when everyone thinks par and we start hearing talk about the euro's going to be under par,
mm,
and it's a layup that it's going to be under par because you know what? People were not that bearish the euro a month ago when I was here.
mm,
There were a lot of dollar bears. Well, Trump wants a lower dollar. We're going to have a lower dollar. It's going to help our exports, right? Then Trump gets elected and uh, yields continue to firm up, and now the dollar's on a tear. But we're closer to where the dollar may make a turn, maybe a couple hundred pips, max three in euro that I'd be looking to get long. Um, so you could probably still sell rallies. I think cable's going to the low 120s, maybe sub, but I'd wait for some type of bounce. But cable still looks very weak to me. The commodity currencies are starting to look better. They're starting to hold support, but I'm still looking for lower for long-term buys. And I'd say something that is probably setting up here that hasn't been exploited yet would be a short in US dollar yen, which would mean a stronger yen because in December I am looking for the BOJ to move.
Mm.
I'm thinking yields are going to come down, not to where a lot of the bond bulls are saying, you know, maybe back to 4%. 390. That's all I'm looking for. And then I think we're going to challenge 5% late in the year. So I'm looking for a little short term relief in interest rates, which could give the dollar a pop.
That's so
I mean,
interesting,
the
Dale.
euro
Just let me
pop.
stop you there because we
Okay,
had
please.
MK and No One Knows Thyself both asking about bonds. So you do see, because it feels like so many people are worried about bond yields just moving straight higher just because of all the sort of animal spirits and the strength we're seeing. And you think we're going to go lower before we see an eventual return. Is there a time
Yeah.
frame on it? Is there, are you thinking it's connected to anything in particular?
Yeah, I think it's going to be connected to risk off.
Mm,
Okay, so, or some weaker economic data and maybe try and lead the Fed into doing something in December. I don't think they will. So I mean, I don't think that Paul has the same mandate. You're hearing Fed officials starting, even though they're looking for weaker employment numbers, to start talking about inflation being sticky. So we're going to see the Fed start to begrudge interest rate cuts, and this is just a pullback. This strength surprised me. I thought we could get a rally maybe to 410, but the fact that this was so persistent, just like the dollar, tells me there could be a pullback in yields
mm.
and a pullback in the dollar, and then another resumption of the trend to the upside. TLT, you know, uh, I think it was someone you've talked to. I heard David Rosenberg say that if there was a red sweep, he was going to shift from being a nervous bond bull to just being nervous, right?
Yeah.
So, I look at TLT here and it looks to me like we're going to have a problem. And people that know me, and I gave it a chance. I was bullish here. This pullback was too deep. We have to get back over 94. We could have a rally, but I think what this market needs is a sell off in risk for
Mm.
people to come back into bonds. Otherwise, I hate to even bring up the number because it would be like a sovereign bond crisis. That if we end up with three drives to a bottom, which this is one and this is two, we're talking about 74 in TLT sometime next year.
So it's interesting. Do you feel like, I mean, we know we talk about, I hear some caution in your voice. And it, when we look across a lot of these markets, there is a lot of bullish sentiment. Does it seem like things are kind of ripe or vulnerable for some sort of financial event?
Oh,
What would cause the risk off rally? Or we just don't know, you're just worried it's going to happen?
I just think that everyone's in the pool. Uh,
Mm.
the boomers have 76% of their assets in stocks. It's
Mm,
never been higher. The U.S. households, I think it's 60% or so, historic highs. I think everyone's in. We had this huge rally after the election, and that may have been what they call, just like you could have selling climaxes, you could also have buying climaxes, which is what I think we had after the election. Um, and, if you go back to the last show, I thought we'd have a little pullback in October, not a massacre, and that we would eventually rally to 6,100, which is where I wanted to sell it. And as we approach it, and we could probably get there, but I just want a lesson on a universally embraced number, which 6,100 was, because it was a measured move off the breakout from 4,800. It measured 61. That when everyone's looking for one number to sell against or one number to buy against, I've seen countless times that the market either doesn't achieve that level, or if it gets to that level, it goes through it. It's inconsequential, like a hot knife through butter.
mm.
So there is also another expression that the bears feast on Thanksgiving and the bulls feast on Christmas. So although the S&Ps really rallied back from last Thursday, Friday's sell-off, look at that recovery compared to this. Okay, here's your what looks stronger, this or this, like an optometrist would do. And the Nasdaq looks a lot weaker. It's retraced less. You have some, uh, you know, you have some chinks in the armor of what used to be leadership. Semis have been declining. Okay, you have one of the big leaders, and Bezos is not in the club. So I'd sell rips in Amazon. All right. Apple hasn't made a new high in a while, and I'm back on the short side of Apple. We take out 226. We're going to 200, then 180. Meta was a star. Look how it's given it back from 600. And here's the Google trade. So there is some damage done in Nasdaq, and I'm worried about the fact that everyone thinks it's smooth sailing into the end of the year. I'm looking for a sell off. I have some cycles due, and people that I collaborate with that come from different disciplines, one
Mhm.
being astro, one just using time cycles, um, are looking towards December 7th, December 8th. And actually, one of the analysts, and you should look her up and put her on. She does astro work, Margot, and she unveiled a pattern that she's seeing with a lot of clusters on December 7th that are analogous with December 7th, 1941.
Oh
And,
dear.
and we know what happened then. So,
Feels like
it,
feels like we're kind of in that moment, right?
yeah,
I feel like a lot of people are referring back to
I,
all different
yeah,
historical precedents for all different reasons, you know?
yeah. So I think we could have a negative break in December, with a lot of people then being forced to, I don't think that we're going to have a big bull move in anything until President elect uh, Trump is sworn in.
That's so interesting. Listen, I always feel like when I talk to really experienced traders and market watchers like you, Dale, I've said this before. There's sort of a spidey sense where you kind of just feel things and see things. I love the saying that everyone's in the pool. It's like it really kind of captures, that the idea that we started with, which is the everything rally. What do you do from here? The chat is just on fire.
I just
There are
I
questions, they're also sharing their own trades. I
all
just wanna
right.
say, if you are not in the chat, subscribe, that's how you get in the chat.
Yeah,
And we're talking
subscribe
about
to
round
Maggie.
numbers. We're really close to 1 too. So hit that
All right.
subscribe button and like button because it helps us. Um, but
I'm
Dale, this is like I
unveiling
feel like this
this.
is really wise. So here's the thing. It may not happen. And gosh, next time we have you on, we always track what you say from one show to the other. So um, but even if it doesn't, the fact that there's risk tells people they should just be careful and manage their risk, right? Even if they don't agree with you and it doesn't happen and things keep flying, this is a really good reminder that you should be prepared for an eventuality that even if you don't expect it, right? I mean, that's the key. That's how you live to fight another day, right? And that's
Uh,
how should they do that? How should they be thinking about doing
all
that? Is
right, if
putting
you're long the market, you don't want to be long if the S&Ps take out 5,800 because that's going to line up a break to 54. And actually, I think this is the formation that we're going to be trading in 2025. It's called a megaphone. It's one of the hardest formations for most amateurs to trade because they get bearish at new lows when they should be looking to buy it. This actually opens a door for a break towards 4,900. And then after, and this is what I said last time, we could go to 6,100 and then have a 20% sell off. And then after this sell off, because it's a megaphone, I could stretch it out and then we could have a huge rally, another melt up after a shakeout. So I think that there's going to be a cleansing in the market
Mm.
in most assets. And I think that you could mainly wait until, you know, late December, uh, uh, January to look to be a buyer again. And especially if you're in stuff like I did call this gold move, this bounce. First, I called the top, then the bounce. But I just want to caution people that a lot of people that bought miners are underwater. Okay. So we're going into tax selling season. Even best of breed, look at Newmont. People were, criticizing me for saying that, I just don't like the grinding action here. There's going to be some tax loss selling, so you could wait to buy the miners until next year too, in my view.
And what about I wanna touch on Nat Gas because that's the other
Oh,
call that you got right. So let's
yeah.
finish up with that one. How are you feeling about that right
All
here?
right. Well, we're having a little reversal here. A 1 day reversal, but this was a home run ball. It's no longer the Widowmaker. This has been a real nice run. Oh, I'm not even showing. That's an Nasdaq. Okay, here's Nat Gas. Okay, so we were talking about it a month ago. That was in here. Okay, and this is when I first started liking it. It was when we had that big sell-off in late August, but Nat Gas was acting good. We're approaching some weekly resistance, but I'd buy a pullback in Nat Gas to maybe around 280 to 260 because if we ever clear this major resistance, and a lot of people thought it was $3 psychologically, but big round numbers have to mean something on a chart. So really the big level coming up is right here, up here around 4. So I'd buy this pullback in that gas. You're wrong under $2 and be looking for more because even if we just correct this big move that we've had from here to here, $5-6 natural gas is not unreasonable.
Fantastic.
Still like it.
Still like it. That's
Ga-
great stuff. Anything on your
Jumping
radar?
jack flash. It's a gas, gas,
There
gas.
we got one. We got the
All
Stones.
right.
I don't even think that was a request and we got that.
Yeah, that's my stones.
Don't we just all need to have a karaoke night with Dale? We've got to make that happen.
All right, we'll do it.
Do you do karaoke, Dale?
Not
For
as
real?
much, but yeah, I used to. I was addicted. I'd be out there 3, 4 nights a week.
Really?
Yeah.
We're bringing it back, Dale.
All right.
We
Okay.
people in the chat, let me know if you are also fancy yourself a karaoke king. because we might have some duets going. I have someone asking, we were talking about bears and bulls feasting. Someone, Oliver asked, when do the squirrels feast? I don't know if you have a crystal ball, but I'm having the blind squirrel on for anyone who follows his
Oh
Substack.
my God. I used to say I'm just a blind squirrel in the middle of a snow-covered forest looking for a few nuts.
Well, I have a feeling that that was the motivation behind his Substack.
Uh,
He's going to be
okay.
coming on after Thanksgiving, so I'll give you a heads up about that.
All right.
And we have a really interesting conversation with Mike Green, a little bit philosophical, but touching on a lot of what we're seeing happening in the markets and playing out. And as we think about what the next administration is going to be able to do, really, really interesting stuff. Mike thinks the market's broken. He has some really interesting thoughts about that. It
Interesting.
was really fun to get his point of view right now. We're going to be releasing that on
What's his
Sunday.
X handle? Professor Plum?
Yes, Professor Plum.
Okay.
And I don't give a fig
He's a,
about it
he's
on
a peach,
Substack.
isn't he?
What's that?
He's a peach.
He's a peach, he's a fig on Substack too. We're all over we're all
All
over the
right.
place, and we're on Substack as well. So if you're listening and you don't follow us there, make sure you do. Dale, I mean, you've got the t-shirt, you've got the singing voice, you just never disappoint, and you gave us so much wise advice today.
Yeah, be careful. Enjoy the holidays, and you know, write down the three P's:
Write down
probe,
the 3 Ps, and we're gonna have you
and protect.
wait, what does it say it
Take
again?
so you probe a market, and you have your stop. Then you take partials. That's the second P, and then you protect your remainder by tucking up your stop to the minimum break even. So the worst thing that happens is you make money. Okay. And
That's
if you
fantastic.
follow that discipline and you're right, you do 3 to 1 at least profit risk ratio trades, and you're right half the time, you're going to be successful.
There you go. This is
Okay.
priceless, by the way, people. I'm gonna squeeze one quickie in. Don't even pull up a chart. Just tell me if you're looking at ETH, because Ralph is desperate to know.
Looking at what?
Ethereum.
Oh, no. I mean, I know it's been underperforming. I'm far from a crypto expert. I follow Bitcoin because to me, it's a measure of hysteria.
Yeah, that's where the momentum is. So
Yeah,
traders gonna
liquidity.
trade.
Yeah, but I'd be careful because I know some guys that have also been right about Bitcoin. I think your altcoins will top before Bitcoin, and be careful in altcoins if Bitcoin comes up, because if they take the king down, they're going to take down the princes.
Dale, thank you so much. You're awesome. Love ending the week with you.
Thank you, Maggie. It
Have a
was great.
fantastic weekend, a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you sometime in early December. And
I'm
we'll buckle our
thankful.
seatbelts.
I'm thankful our paths crossed, Maggie.
Absolutely. So am I, Dale.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
I
We'll
take it
see you
easy.
again on Monday. Take care. Have a great weekend.